Good afternoon, Whisperers, and welcome to another fabulous episode of Whispers in a Bottle Grown Talk Cocktail Fridays. I am your host, Sonya LaRae, lifestyle relationship counselor, educator, and motivational speaker. Oh my goodness, guys, this is so good to be in here today, to come in, to have our discussions. I mean, we are really having such a great time. And listen, thank you so much for following us here on YouTube and just contributing in such a dynamic way. Make sure that you click the button to subscribe. Make sure you like this episode and share it, because that is the biggest thing here on Whispers in a Bottle. We pour in and give value to each discussion. And I always tell you guys, I am so excited to come in and to really talk about impactful subjects like what we're having today. And you know what? As I always invite you all to make sure that you join our fabulous newsletter and our VIP listing so you can get fabulous tips, the cocktail or the mocktail of the episode. And see, over here, you're missing out because everybody at Whispers in a Bottle at Blog Talk Radio knows about our fabulous cocktail mocktail of the episode. And matter of fact, if you join us at 3 p.m. today at www.blogtalkradio/whispers in a bottle, we will be having the vodka cranberry cocktail. Oh my goodness. This came from a dynamic mixologist, and I'm telling you, not a disappointment at all. I mean, Jax is from Boston. He gave us a little education with regards to the cranberry and Boston. Yes, mind blown. That's why you need to be a part of our newsletter. So look, I have a live description and I have a live link in the description box, of the episode that you can tap on that and definitely get your newsletter and your cocktails and your mocktails. And I like to start our discussion off. And you know what today's discussion is? Oh my goodness, it's powerful. The importance of resilience. And I start every discussion off with a clear meaning and a clear definition. So this is no different. So I'm going to give you the meaning of resilience. It means the ability to withstand adversity and bounce back from difficult life events. Let me give it to you again a little clearer. So once again, resilience means the ability to withstand adversity and bounce back from difficult life events. I know, like just that definition in itself is exciting. It's just truly exciting. And resilience is important because it gives people the strength needed to process and overcome hardships. Our levels of resiliency will change and develop throughout our lives, and it enables us to develop mechanisms for our own protection. It helps us to maintain balance in our lives during difficult or stressful periods. Isn't that dynamic? We don't even think about these things half of the time when it comes to resilience, when it comes to things that we're dealing with in our day-to-day lives. How does resiliency really play a factor in it? So, you may be wondering, how do we develop this? How do we develop resiliency? Well, there are several ways. And in that we can develop this quality, we may have to make some lifestyle changes. Now, you notice I said we may have to make some lifestyle changes and practice being more straightforward and assertive with others. Because a lot of times, when we meet people or there's things that really are bothering us, we may kind of like tap around the situation or kind of not really bring ourselves into alignment with things. And so we have to be mindful of that. And notice that I said that we may have to tap in and be more straightforward when there's certain elements and certain things that are bothering us. And if you feel people are making unreasonable demands upon you by, prepping you by preparing you to tell them how you feel, don't fall into it. Do not give into that, because they're prepping you. They want you to give them the answer that they want, not necessarily what's going to be beneficial for you, to enable you to keep a healthy mind, body, soul connection. And remember, we talked about all of this with embracing stress and having those elements of that powerful word no in your diet. And yes, word no is a diet word that you can have, and you can actually be proud that you're saying these things. And if I even try to tell you all that, there are different emotional connections when we have that power and we don't give into constantly speaking or giving our power into other people. And being straightforward is something that many need to practice, and no tiptoeing around the subjects that need to be addressed. Don't try to sidestep it. Don't do that, because only thing it will hurt is you in the long run. So listen, whisperers, another thing that helps us develop more resiliency, or to be resilient, is looking for your physical health, looking out after your physical health. And this is such an important key. And you have to get a good night's rest and develop a better sleep pattern for yourself. And sometimes you hear that, and I know so many people, I've talked to my clients about their sleep schedules. How is it impacting them? Are they really getting enough sleep that the mind has enough time to regenerate and to rest and to focus back in again? And sometimes you might see that, that is an element that is lacking for you. And a proper amount of sleep help in a healthy brain function, and is needed in developing resiliency and dealing with certain situations that arise in our day-to-day lives. And I mean, how many times do we walk around and you hear people tell you all the time, oh, I'm so exhausted, I'm so tired? It's because they're not getting the adequate rest that they need, so their body and their mind is able to withstand the blows that we get when it comes to the stresses, the different elements that come into our life, because we all are faced with different things. I mean, we still have the pandemic going out here, the new variant, things that are touching our children in the way that we hadn't even seen with regards to this pandemic. So we are really trying to restore our healthy mindset, and being resilient does that. It requires this. So I have to ask you, do you know what the 5 pillars of resiliency are, or to be resilient are? Well, we're going to go deeply into these pillars. So here, you should take some notes. And I always tell you guys at some point in time in our discussion, I tell you to get your pen, your paper, and really get ready, because we're going to take some notes and we're going to dissect each of the layers that we're going to go into. And so this is that point of this. And if you need to pin mark this episode and come back, please do so. And don't forget, maybe this information is not for you and it isn't resonating for you, but it may be well for someone else. So don't forget to share it, because this is why we're doing this. This is why we're pouring into these type of topics. So with that being said, what are the 5 pillars? So first, emotional well-being. Second is inner drive. Third is future focus. And fourth is relationships. And fifth is physical health, which we just spoke of. So I'm going to give them to you again. Emotional well-being, inner drive, future focus, relationships, and our physical health. So let's get into the first pillar, okay? And we're going to speak about emotional well-being. And the first and foremost fundamental pillar, of resilience is this aspect. And this pillar of resilience um is also about how a person understands and manages their emotions. Notice what I said? It's how a person understands and manages their emotions. So this can include seeing things from multiple perspectives. Being able to solve conflict with oneself and others and healthily expressing emotions. Now, I'm not talking about having rage or just spewing out your emotions. I mean, having control of them, placing them in words that are identifiable and acceptable to others to hear what you are saying. So they're able to understand where you are and what you require and need for them or from them so you can be healthy and move with this resiliency. Whisperers, see the quality for people to help them to have more control over their thoughts, feelings, and behaviors are so important. And that's overlooked many a times. That overlooking of how we're feeling or how we're saying things or what we're putting forward is the first element of being overlooked or misconstrued. So that first element that we're getting the understanding of is emotional well-being. So that moves us into number 2, which is the future focus. I know, right? Although nobody can predict the future, it is possible to be prepared to successfully handle obstacles that show up. Okay, let me say it again so you get that. Even though we are not able to predict the future, because we're not, it is possible to be prepared to successfully handle obstacles that show up. And future focus is the ability to plan ahead. So let's say that you know that there's a situation that's coming up that may be a little more stressful. How can we plan ahead to be ready to handle these circumstances? How can we plan ahead to be ready to focus on what we're going to deal with and what we're going to be, some of the obstacles that may arise at that time? And so, with that being stated, you have to set realistic goals. Remember a few shows ago, I told you about the SMART goals? Remember, I broke that acronym down for you, SMART goals? I told you that the S stood for specific, the M was measurable, the A was achievable, the R is for relevant, and the T was for time bound. So, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, time bound goals. By having a SMART goal, it proves the clarity, focus, and motivation behind things. So, once again, that's what we're looking at, having SMART goals and future focus. So, first and foremost, what do we say that the first key or the first pillar is? We said that was emotional well being. The second pillar now is that future focus. And the third key is inner drive. Inner drive. So, inner drive is all about a person's ability to focus on themselves on a daily basis. Now, I'm not talking about a selfish focus. That is all about you. It has nothing to do with anyone else out here. I'm speaking totally into what it is for you as a person to focus on. And that is what inner drive is. It's about looking closely at ourselves. And although a person shouldn't put too much pressure on yourself, they can do the following things on a daily basis so you can then follow up and know how you're doing things. So you can use your own self awareness as a guide. Practice managing thoughts, emotions, and actions. Notice I said practice controlling or managing. I didn't say control, I said managing your thoughts, emotions, and actions. That is a powerful, dynamic way of what you're doing in that. When you do things like that, it is by far one of the biggest things that you can possibly do in your day to day life. And this sometimes is one of the hardest things to do, but very necessary. And, by seeing constructive criticism and setbacks as opportunities for development, we have to write down things. Remember, I told you that the for walking in your greatness, that we have to do visuals because we're visual beings, we're visual creatures. And by us seeing things with our mind's eye and seeing things that we put up in our vision, in our focus, like you all can't see past the studio here, I have a big whiteboard, and on my whiteboard I have things on it that I need to focus on and that will help me with my future focus, my inner drive, and my emotional well being. So I am better to produce, better to be able to be resilient when things arise within my company, within my life, within my day to day, and the elements that I deal with. So, what was the first thing that we talked about? We talked about emotional well being. What was the second part of that pillar? It was the inner drive. What is the third part of the pillar? It was the the inner drive, and then the second was the future focus, which leads us into our physical health. Number 4, which we covered in the intro. I talked about that and about having the proper sleep, proper nutrition, the proper hydration. These are things that help us, and because it helps our mind to be healthy, to motivate us into that thinking of that mindset, to help us to build into resilience, not resistance. Excuse me, I misspoke. I'm so sorry. And a person taking care of their physical health it'll give you energy and drive to maintain all of the other pillars of resiliency. Isn't that dynamic in itself? When you think about that, when you really think about how your physical health plays a key element of supporting, so this is like your supporting beam in your structure. That your physical health is that true supporting beam in your walk into resiliency. I mean, I love when things come about and you can really visualize and see those elements and to understand how they connect together. That is something that I love. And when I have discussions like this, it makes me excited because it's those things that keep energizing us and moving us forward. And it's just dynamic. Whisperers, when a person takes care of their body on a daily basis, it sets a reminder of something essential, your well being, and consciously loving your mind, body, and soul. I mean, because truly, the best aspect of loving ourselves is self love, self care. And if we're able to do that freely and not be stumbling over it or feeling guilty because you're giving yourself the nurturing need that you must have to produce, trust me, this is dynamic. This is something so good and so worthwhile of having. And like I said, the pillar, the main part of your structural sound foundation. Oh my goodness, I love it. And if you think of our discussion regarding our past doesn't determine our future, there are many things in our lives we can control, modify, and grow with. And this is the role that resiliency plays in us. And it does for us. And so many times, so many people forget that. And we've covered how we can develop resiliency, but here is what resiliency isn't. Now, I need you to understand what it's not. And I have tons of notes here. And I'm always telling you guys, I get the notes and I make sure I have them for you all because I don't want to miss a point about anything that we have going on. So, this is what it is not. Resiliency doesn't mean that we won't experience difficulties or distress. In fact, the road to resiliency it is likely to involve considerable emotional distress. I know. I know. It's like mind blowing when you hear that. Whispers, I'm one that can speak on this. I can really speak on this with regards to resiliency. I've shared my personal story with you all regarding me being paralyzed in a wheelchair for 5.5 years and all of what I went through with regards to that. But through that very adverse and difficult situation in time, I emerged as a better person. Now, I'm not going to tell you that it wasn't hard and that I didn't have some really difficult times, and that literally even having my mind focused on the relevancy and the pivoting that I needed to do. But what I can tell you what it did do for me, I became more of a compassionate person, an empathetic person, and less self absorbed. Did you hear me? Because that's what the dynamics of resiliency brings forward in many. It helps us to shift and to find the clarity of our mind of where we need it to be or where we need to be, that journey that we're going to take. And it allowed me to grow and it allowed me to develop in ways I hadn't even thought I would, or even possibly thought I could be in a different way. And it made me a better listener. So it made me a better friend, a better therapist, a better daughter, wife, and individual. Because that's what resiliency does. It pours that value back into us to allow us to step back, get the right perspective and the right mindset on things. And it helps us to also deal with things in a realistic set and time and function. You know, we are developing and building resilience. It takes time. When we're doing that, it takes time. It's something that doesn't, like, you snap your fingers and it's there. It does not happen that way. We build it. We develop this. And it takes us to be able to engage in our thoughts and feelings. Engage. That means that we're plugging into them. We're dissecting them a little bit and looking at them for what they're worth. And resilience is only developed through our challenges. It isn't like positive thinking or self-compassion or gratitude, which is learned. That's a learned skill. Resilience will allow you to be effectively overcome and rise to meet the challenges ahead. Isn't that dynamic? I mean, like, seriously, guys, I literally, when I started doing this discussion and thinking about what I wanted to pour into it and to have it that it was something of value for all of you, I really sat and I really thought about what did I want to impart in this discussion? What were the key elements that I needed to make sure that was resonating with myself, that I could effectively tell you all and effectively tell you why it's so important that we develop resiliency? Because without it, you won't withstand the challenges that life throws at you. Without it, you cannot be a benefit, an aid, or an asset to yourself or to those that depend or need you on a daily basis. I mean, this is a quality that is as fundamental and as important as you drinking water to nourish and hydrate your body. I mean, like, seriously, like, that is how deep this quality runs and how important. It's your stabilizer. It's that foundation, that pillar that is going to make sure that your home does not collapse around you. And that home is your mind. Your home is your body. Your home is your heart. Your home is the value of what you bring into your relationships, what you bring into your businesses, what you bring into your day to day life. Oh my goodness. It's that powerful. So, I always like to give you takeaways. So, what are the takeaways from this discussion? We spoke on the strategies and we spoke on those pillars. So, the pillars again were looking after our health, emotional well being, inner drive, future focus, and our relationships. Those are our pillars that we are taking away with us in this discussion. And Whisperers, I'm always so happy to be able to pour such amazing value into our topics and give us the needed tools to keep us on our growth mindset. Remember, we're developing, we're moving, and we're having a growth mindset. We're not sitting and we're not becoming stagnant. We're building value. We're not a junk bond. We have true value that we're placing into us. And so when I get to have these types of discussions, oh my goodness, it just means everything to me. And if I can be of any assistance and to be able to work with you, I want to do that because that is what is the core value of things, is really being able to place those great pillars in there and working on your goals, overcoming the self-sabotaging mindset and abilities of what happen in day to day, that you can build resilience, that you can have that ability to be withstanding the storms that come into our lives, that you can be that pillar that's needed, that your structure is not just collapsing around us. I just am looking so forward to connecting with you all further as we go through this journey, as I'm pouring more value into you. It's my definite pleasure. And so, I want you to come back even next week because I have another grand topic that we're going to be doing, and it's on born born to be an optimist. Oh my goodness, right? Born to be an optimist. I hope you really have enjoyed this discussion because I really have. And I find myself just so um, taken by the quality of resiliency and having resilience. I've met so many people along my journey, along my walk in life, my business, that have come up against some really major occurrences. And in them doing so and having this quality of resiliency, they have developed and grown into such dynamic individuals. And I know that we all can do that and we all can withstand things in a certain way. But if you need support, make sure that you have the right kind of support, not people that are going to take from you but not pour value back into you. Remember, I'm always telling you that we're investing into pure, good investments that you're going to receive an exchange and a payout. We're not developing and investing into junk bonds. We're developing into value. And so I encourage you all to keep doing that, to keep taking these walks with me, having these dynamic discussions, because these discussions are powerful, and I love it. And if you have a suggestion or you want me to discuss something or you have a question that you want me to address on the show, feel free to email us at info@whispersinabottlepodcast.com. Once that, again, that is info@whispersinabottlepodcast.com. And listen, I want you to come and connect with me. I'm on social media. You can find me on Instagram at www.instagram.com/whispersinabottle_podcast. I believe it's on the bottom of the screen even. So once again, that's instagram.com/whispersinabottle_podcast. I'm on Twitter. You can find us at www.twitter.com/whisper, and that's capital WHISPERS, capital BOTTLE. You must put it in that way or you won't find us. So that's capital WHISPERS, capital BOTTLE on Twitter. And of course, our Facebook group. You can find us at Whisper in a Bottle on Facebook, and that's with no S. It's just Whisper in a Bottle. And so I've had such a great time with this discussion, pouring value into you, receiving the value that you give to me by watching me and talking to me and just sending your messages. I love it. And I'm so glad to connect with you. And I appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for tuning in to Whispers in a Bottle, Grown Talk Cocktail Fridays. I am your host, Sonya LaRae. I'm a lifestyle relationship counselor, educator, motivational speaker, and a fashion psychologist. Guys, please have a good weekend. Please be safe. Remember to wear your mask and wash your hands. And I look forward to us coming together again next week for another grand discussion. All right, guys, have a good weekend. Bye.